I always tell people, don't try to be brilliant. Don't try to do a lot. Just say what you know that your friends don't know, but then check every fact. And as you check, most of them will be a little wrong. Mostly, religious people don't think there are any atheists in history. They just find some belief-sounding thing. Whereas the atheists err on the side of pretty much saying the good people are atheists. Well, someone recently said she wears a lot of hats, but her head is poetry, and I liked that. But there's poetry and there's scholarly history, and then there's writing more publicly. So I wrote this poem when a friend of mine did it. We weren't very close anymore. We had been close at Columbia. She was a poet. She was living in Boston. That was why we'd lost a little bit of touch. I did not expect Socrates to be telling people that they must not do this. I was surprised and delighted by Wittgenstein's argument. He doesn't spend much time on it, but he says if anything is if anything is not allowed, suicide is not allowed, and if suicide is allowed, anything's allowed. College students write to me and say they'd never thought about hurting their friends, and now they would never do it because the thought that they could influence one of their friends towards suicide has allowed them to put it out of mind. And then they always thank me for how much nicer it is to live once you're sure you're not going to do that. I always say to people, imagine yourself alone on the planet. Would you do anything the same that you do with all the, we are making reality for each other. We're making meaning for each other and believing each other into being. So if you don't have means, you can write it out. And that's one of the reasons I call my book a sort of conceptual barrier, because I know that bridge barriers work, which is amazing. Everyone thought we'll put up a barrier, they'll just go to another bridge, but they don't. They go home. I would kill pain in every instance I could for myself and everyone else, but I'm glad I don't have that power, because I don't know what would happen to culture, and I don't know what would happen to character. But I do think that, especially in America, where we're so concentrated on positivity and smiling and covering up the hard spots, speaking the truth about how it is for you is, I think, the hugest contribution that each of us can make. And we can make it in tiny ways. We can make it when we're feeling too small and weak to do anything. You just don't pretend it's all okay for you if you can. If you see someone else in distress, say, me too sometimes. I've said in public, in the Daily News, that I have suicidal thoughts. That's something I did not want to come out with, but I chose to because I wanted to get past people's defenses and have them be willing to consider these ideas. You don't have to invent meaning. You don't have to rise up and decide meaning and then nurture it. That your culture is, and your community is going to do some of that work for you. And sometimes you have to let it. Sometimes you have to let the reins go and follow along with what the other people are doing and see if there's some joy in it. Because sometimes they know stuff you don't know.